MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMAjunkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Gold, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on!
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing the show, Jumbo Josh. Does he got Gabby with him? Or is he Han Solo today?
Gabby's voice today.
All right, so it's Jumbo Josh doing the Han Solo. What's up, guys?
What up?
What's going on?
Happy Hump Day.
Happy Hump Day.
You know that camel? He did his rounds a couple years ago, and I remember going, well, Geico's being silly. I'm glad he came back. For some reason, it's one of my favorite channels, or commercials, sorry.
I like Max.
Yeah, the pig. Yeah, he made a comeback as well. He's got the little fans or whatever. He's hanging out of the car. Yeah. I like him too, and of course the gecko never gets old. But anyway, I digress. And it is Wednesday. It's January 30th. Some people are saying it's the longest month ever. Do you guys feel like January's dragged on? And do you have a problem with that? Because when I reflect, like at the end of 2000, or at the end of every year, like when we get into December 26, 27, 30, 31, and I look back and go, where's the time gone? You know, and I think the time goes by too fast. But if it is going by slow, what's the problem?
I guess it does kind of feel, if you go back to like when we were actually opening gifts and stuff like that, that does seem like a really long time ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So doesn't New York feel like a long time ago?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it does.
I mean, I guess it's just how you look at it.
But my thing is,
when you said it, I was like,
you don't have a problem with that, right?
No.
Yeah, a few people care. And a few people, like different parts of my life, whether it was a family or a junkie or somebody, just kept saying the same thing. I was like, wow, is this like a hashtag, or did I miss the boat on a funny joke or meme? But I couldn't find anything other than people were just saying it's just been a long month.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess everybody looks at things differently, but to me, when you said it, I said, yeah, it does kind of feel long, but I don't care.
Let me ask you guys something.
I'm not going anywhere.
You, Dan, and Josh, I want to know something.
All right.
If we were doing end of the month awards, what was the funnest thing you did in January? We always do it for MMA, knockout, submission, or whatever. What was just the best thing or the funnest thing Goes did in January?
January, the funnest thing I did would probably be, does like New Year's Eve count? Because it rolls over into the next day. I
suppose, yeah, New Year's Day.
Then it was
just New Year's Day.
Yeah, Imagine Dragons and all that. Because it went through, you know.
Yeah.
Do you want to just give you another one?
Yeah, give me another one. Because Imagine Dragons, if I want to be technical, they probably went on the stage around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. So they were done by the time the clock struck midnight.
Then after that, the funnest thing that I did was probably the night we went to Carlos Santana.
Just the other day.
Had dinner and all that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about you, Dan Tom?
I'll probably say that too. I'm a simple guy, just eating with good friends such as yourself or people I haven't seen in a minute, like a Colonel, and just having good. That goes a long way with me. I probably average one of those every 6 months, or it feels like in the last 3 years. So it's like it feels really nice. So that'll probably be mine because I honestly didn't do crap in January. Granted, we did. I'm not going to blame any schedules. We had that week off, I think, to begin as far as like UFC or I think major cards went, and then the next week or whatever. But yeah, I stayed pretty busy. I had just it was just pretty boring. But I will say I did make plans today to go kayaking on the 10th, which falls on a Sunday, which should be interesting because Sunday, fun day for most people. Yeah. But for me, that's like the key day to kind of try to get ahead or attempt to, plus like get all my stuff done. So I'm going to plan for that. But you know what? I figured, you know what? I can't turn it down. A good buddy of mine messaged me, and you know, that's what life's about. You got to make sure to get out there, get that vitamin D, and enjoy yourself. So
Colorado?
Do that.
River?
Yeah, real close by.
I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah.
Have you done it before?
I think Las Vegas Weekly.
No, I went on a boat out there before, and we went like for a hike out there before, but we both got four-wheeling vehicles recently that are four-wheel capable. So and he just got a kayak, and the rental's pretty cheap. I think it's like $40. So we're gonna go out there and find a spot
with
and
a
go
professional
kayaking.
or just you two?
I don't know, just us two, I guess. Yeah.
Oh wow,
I'm Hawaiian
with this, right?
I'm Hawaiian. I've been on a kayak before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I've never been on a kayak.
Me neither. But you know what I've wanted to do is river rafting. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it on Las Vegas Weekly a lot. It keeps jumping out at me like, George, do this.
I would do that with a pro.
I think my ship sailed as far as jumping out of a plane, although shout out to my buddy Steve Straub. He did it for his 50th birthday. But I don't know. That's one thing that I've wanted to do.
Nah, I wouldn't do that.
Why not? And I'm close to jumping on the zip line at the Rio.
Oh, you wouldn't do that?
No, it's so high. I don't know. I don't think I want to do that or anything at the Stratosphere. But I think I mean, that's what I was telling myself before, but I think I may try it.
I'm not a good swimmer. I can swim. But the jagged rocks and all that, you know, I just...
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do, like, what do they call it, like an F5. I think they have different levels.
Mm-hmm.
I would do, like, a 2 or a 3 or something.
Oh, like Land of the Lost? Like the beginning of it?
Like Bigfoot Rapids at Knott's Berry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I would do that.
You go for 2 hours, and they apparently they have a lunch ready for you. You sit around, take a few pics, bam, another 2 hours. And then I think you bust back to the original spot. And
I would never bungee jump. I would skydive. And I guess I would try your style of river rafting. I would do that, but not the real intense one.
Not to digress.
With the bulls.
Not to digress too much further, but have you guys had a scary water incident? I asked because it sounds like you have, and it sounds like you haven't, George.
Well, I saved Sammy the squid in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was struggling at Sandy's Beach with getting back.
Wow, yeah, that's the beach. Yeah, my uncle almost drowned there. Yeah.
Surf, you know, I mean, the waves. I mean, they're not the massive Mavericks waves, but still. And he was just having trouble, and me and another guy went and got him. So I was kind of fresh off those years where I played water polo.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I think if I went after Sammy, he'd either save me back or 2 lifeguards would come save us. I don't know, because I don't know if I could do it now. But, yeah.
That's tough, man. No, because my mom and her cousin, my Uncle Harold, who's not that big of a guy, I had to rescue my Uncle Paul, who is a big guy, like 250, 6'7", played football, the whole deal. But maybe that worked against him, even though he was younger and still more in shape at the time. But that undertow is serious. So that's strong. Yeah, that's
big time.
Ups to you, man.
And then we had to moped back for 2 hours in the rain. And by the way, not to get Weather Channel on you guys, but when stuff jumps out at me, it jumps out at me. And I want to talk about it. You know, that's the one thing about this new spot. Everybody keeps asking, hey, what do you guys think? I'll tell you what I think. I build up a lot, like, in my head of that I want to get out because I'm watching, you know, television or I'm on the internet. But, you know, we'll get to the MMA. I sound like one of those rookies, right?
The MMA.
The MMA.
Thanks, Gus Johnson.
I sound like Gus Johnson, Oscar De La Hoya. No, this jumped out at me.
Gus Johnson.
Chicago was minus 16 degrees today. That was their temperature, because there's all kinds of cold that's sweeping the Midwest, Arctic cold. But with the wind, it was minus 46. That's nuts. The CNN lady goes, let's go to so-and-so who's standing in Chicago. And she was talking as fast as she could so he could just say what he needed to say, and they needed to get indoors. Like,
their teeth chattering while they were talking?
He toughed it out, man. He had the earmuffs on, and he must have had like parkas and everything you could think of. So I'm sure he was good. But that's the guy you saw throw the hot water in the air, and it kind of looked like it turned into dust.
Yeah,
that's
like
the
great
guy.
Muda was spitting or something.
We had seen the same thing. It's just I don't know how you caught it, but I caught it earlier. But I know we have a lot of Chicago-based listeners. Stay warm, and there've been some deaths. So now let's stop the joking. There have been some deaths related to this. I'm not saying just Chicago, but apparently all over the Midwest, they're saying just stay indoors for the next 24, 48 hours because people are reaching frostbite like quickly.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and last thing, Jumbo Josh, what was your best highlight of January? I guess we have technically one more day to go, but I'm just curious.
So I got two. Going to the Keith Thurman-Josecito Lopez fight at the Barclays Center with Randy Gordon and Jerry Cooney was an awesome experience because, like, getting to hang with those guys at the fight, they're both, they're both legends anyway, but when they go to fights, it's crazy how they get, like, mobbed, and, it's always a fun time doing that, and then getting to actually talk to both Thurman and Lopez after the fight I was lucky enough to, and it was just a cool night, and, like, the world of combat sports has definitely changed my life, and to get to be that close with a fight that was that good and that courageous was cool. So that's one. And then a couple days ago for my mom's belated birthday, went to a steakhouse with my parents, and it was just good to, remember what's important in life and sit down and catch up with them.
Sir.
So that was really cool too. So I would say those two are tied for my January highlights.
Man, why'd you ask him? He destroyed us.
Of course,
he did. He wins.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I love the second one. I definitely sentiment you there, Josh. But I appreciate the first one because I don't know about you guys, but I picture Josh sitting like right in between them, and then when they get up to get a hot dog, like Jerry holds his hand. It's like, come on, kid. right.
Did you give yours?
Basically.
Huh?
Did you give yours?
Mine was the road trip from this past weekend. So if I had to pick a day, it would probably be Sunday morning. I got to see Jules real quick for some coffee. I hadn't seen her in a few weeks, and then bolted out of LA home, and then went on another second road trip all in one day to Phoenix, Arizona. Got to see an old friend in Benny. Got to hang out with John Moraga, who I know through the show, but got to talk to him a little bit, the future of the flyweights, all that. Got to see pro wrestling, which I hadn't seen live really like that in a long time, and it just got my wheels turning as far as like, what is that sport doing that is making their fans click with their athletes and with the events, and how can MMA, what can we do with our, doing our part to eventually get to something like that. It was 50,000 people there at Royal Rumble, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to save a little bit of time to talk about that, but that was probably my highlight, little road trip.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, we're going to do that?
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to take an early commercial. You're listening to MMAjunkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back. Probably a Magomed in there somewhere. I don't remember their names. One of them was his cousin. One of them was easy. One was a Nurmagomedov and Zukharov, or I forget. But those guys got punishments too. So we reacted to it yesterday. John Morgan joined us. He gave us his thoughts. We've all seen Twitter, but what we haven't heard is Dana White's reaction. He was on SportsCenter today, and he gave his opinions on it. So I thought, hey, he's the most powerful man in the sport. We know he cares about his brand, and we know he wants those two fighting as much as possible, but I still wanted to see what he thought and if he was going to put a certain spin or anything. So let's hit those. Let's talk first about Dana White reacting to the NSAC rulings on SportsCenter yesterday. He's surprised at the severity of the ruling, and I think we all can fist bump him there. Cut one, please, Josh.
I was obviously surprised by how much they put on Khabib. You got $500,000 and 6 months if he does some PSAs. What he did was wrong, but he jumped out. We had the whole thing contained in seconds, and I don't know. It was a little harsh in my opinion, but it is what it is.
Oh. Damn.
Yeah. So he basically said the same thing I think I felt yesterday. Hey, man, it's a fight. It was contained, but that's a lot of dough. Goes, I think, is on the same side, other than you get what you deserve as far as the severity. Or
a little bit.
The amount of the fine, right?
The amount of the fine, just don't do it. You don't have to worry about it. That's how I look at it. But I don't like the argument of nothing happened, so it's kind of okay. I just don't like that argument. I think he should just say, look, shit went down. Props to the security that were in the building, the UFC staff, for containing that, but we don't condone that stuff to happen. But don't use the because nothing happened, it's actually not that bad. Because it's still bad. That's the only problem I have with that. But I thought, considering some of the things he said in the past, I thought this was okay, what Dana said.
All right. In the next cut, we're going to listen to him talk about the fact that we're at a fighting event. This isn't a knitting contest, a Miss Universe contest, somebody's kid's not singing in a choir. Mm-hmm. This is a fight game, and there's a lot of testosterone coursing through those walls of the T-Mobile or whatever arena this promotion and other promotions go to. People go very, very fired up to back their guy or gal, and I guess if it spills over, maybe it's a product of what they just saw. I guess I don't leave a baseball game going, I want to go to the batting cages, or somebody tee up some baseballs for me in the parking lot. I get that, but still, this is different. So let's hear cut number 2, Josh, of Dana White on SportsCenter.
Well, here's the thing. It's a fight. At the end of the day, it's a fight. And sometimes you come across people that don't like each other. Right. And there's a lot of bad blood. And that was the case in this fight. This is what we do. This is the fight business. These guys are talking about fighters saying mean things to each other and all this other stuff. If you break it down and you go back to when Ali fought Frazier, and you look at the times when that happened, the stuff that he said about Frazier and was saying to Frazier was horrible. Yep. Horrible things that you didn't say to somebody else back then.
I mean, he's right. In the history of sports, there has been smack talk that goes back and forth. It's just different now, though, especially with social media. I mean, deep-rooted feelings for a lot of people. And these are – the Irish culture, I think, is a little closer to the American culture, but the Dagestani culture definitely is different. And then if we tie the fact that, he's also Muslim, and we don't know how different people from different part of the world are wired. Mm-hmm. But we have one thing in common: fights, the fighting game. We love watching them, and those guys love competing in it. So, I agree with him, but I think he's putting out future fires by coming in over the top like that. Mm-hmm. And he's very smart with the people that he goes on, because whoever's going to question him isn't going to really be able to go over the top, like to use a poker term, oh, you bet this? Well, I'm coming over the top. I got these questions. A, they don't know. B, he does these spots in there quick. Like, you can't spend, it's not like a Joe Rogan experience or, or even our show, like when we have an in-studio guest, we have 2 hours to just cover it all. How many times have we done 2 hours and still ran out of time?
Oh,
there's other stuff that we want to do. So, it's quick hits, and that's it. And he knows how to get the word out. All right, in cut number 3, he switches his opinions and thoughts towards John Jones. Remember, he got the temporary license. He can compete at UFC 235 and defend his UFC light heavyweight title versus Anthony Smith. And it's a one-fight license, and I guess we're all going to take it slowly. But let's hear Dana White reacting to that, please, Josh.
What they want to do is they're going to give him a temporary license, and they're going to keep drug testing him until his next fight. I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he does it. He's one of the best ever, maybe the greatest ever, and he's fun to watch fight. So hopefully he can keep his personal life together and pass these tests and continue to cement his legacy in the sport.
Rock on, Dana.
Yeah. Is there a band in the background playing?
So that was on Sports Center. It was from Sports Center. There was like a graphic in the background, so they threw some music behind it.
Okay.
Was the Linkin Park Dana White take there?
All right, now another thing. Khabib sounds like he's done with Las Vegas. By the way, he wants to fight, and he's setting the table perfectly. Remember, he got paid very handsomely, and even though we want him to fight twice a year, he doesn't have to. What if he's not fighting, he can't possibly lose. He can't possibly not stay undefeated. He can't possibly not be the UFC world champion or lose a fight that determines. I mean, you get to protect all that. Now, the only problem is we used to say, well, to make money, you got to fight. But he made a lot of money. He made pay-per-view buys off of $2.5 million in sales. So he really can just take that time off. You can use the stance, I'm standing with my brothers, I'm observing Ramadan, I don't want to fight in Vegas, blah, blah, blah. But really, he just doesn't have to fight if he doesn't want to and do the training camp and all that. And I'm not sure that I disagree with him if I was in the same boat as him, But as a fan, I want to see him defend twice because I like watching him fight, and I love that division, and it's deep, and we just need to have more activity. But the times are changing. However, Khabib, I guess, states he's just done with Vegas. Let's hear that, Josh.
Oh no, there's no audio of that. But what I was just gonna say is that he also, as of a couple of fights ago, I assume it's still true now, he lives with his parents, so he has a very modest living. So when it comes to someone saying they don't need the money, they won't fight in Vegas despite the paychecks, normally I would just consider it bluster. But I mean, this guy's beliefs and his lifestyle supports that he is probably willing to walk away from paydays for beliefs. So you got to respect that.
I do have a cut. Here it is right here. I was able to find it.
All right, so listen. Are you going to fight in Vegas anymore?
I do like this.
Oh, my.
And that's Khabib reacting to
Kermit the Frog's question.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it was George St. Pierre.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Hey, look, I think this is what makes Khabib so unique. It's what Josh brought up, is the fact that it's not that he's really holding cards. That's just the way he is, right? He doesn't really need that much money. But then again,
we're fucked. We're not gonna watch him fight till November. I can see it already.
Oh yeah.
He wants to go to New York. We know that they're going to New York in November. And that's it, man. Ferguson's fucked. Poirier. That's why Poirier came out and said what he said as well. He wants a big fight, and he's saying either McGregor or Ferguson, or I'll fight someone else, because someone I think pitched Iaquinta his way. And he said, sure, but we have to renegotiate. And remember, he recently renegotiated. I'd say maybe 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I remember we had him on the show, and we said, hey, define championship language. He put something in there. It was called championship language, or in his contract, he was ecstatic. And more power to him if he can get more dough. And he wants to fight, by the way. He's not a guy that's sitting out. But here we go. It's the trickle effect.
Well, here's something I would want him to consider. And it's something that we saw happen in the light heavyweight division. Saw John Jones go away for a while, right? And he came back. And some people were saying, hey, man, maybe Maybe he got some rust on his body. He had a lot of money. Now he comes back and starts making money again. But the one thing that he can't get back, it's always a struggle between making a lot of money and having time to kind of have fun with it and spend money as well. But I think what John lost in that process is now there's not that many dudes left at 205 that can generate that big paycheck. There's Daniel Cormier, but he's already fought him twice, right? And he's a heavyweight. There's talks of John maybe taking a heavyweight fight. I don't want that to happen to Khabib, where right now there's a bunch of guys to fight. Maximize that time. Fight all them dudes. Be the best ever. Don't lose out on that time, because they're going to start picking each other off, and maybe you'll find yourself in that same pickle.
Well, nah, lightweight won't have that pickle. I hear what you're saying.
Stars, though.
Stars, yes, but not the pickle of...
He'll always have someone to fight, but are there going to be the characters that you need to make giant paychecks? Conor McGregor's not, he doesn't have that much time left, dude.
This is why I agree with Goz, and this is also why you got to give credit to guys like BJ Penn. They went up for super fights. Those didn't go their way. They came right back down humbly, giving guys a chance, defending their title, and then still giving guys who were real risk to reward ratio not there. Frankie Edgar, who was coming off a win off Matt Veach, and he would give a shot to this guy who, after his win over Sean Shirk, BJ Penn in the audience saying this is the next future world champion, he knew how dangerous of a fight that was, and ended up being the foil that pretty much ended his career. Yet he gave those guys a shot as great as you because the lightweight division needed it, and the division has been through so much turmoil since its inception. It's been unstable since 2016, and it took 4 tries to even get the division off the ground, which is now the deepest division. So yeah, if you want to flaunt the undefeated record, pound for pound ranking, you want to make the argument whether it's Khabib or people that support him that's saying he's the best lightweight ever, then go save the division, dude, because you're a badass, you're a Superman, and you can make a really great run for yourself and the division here. But that's just my opinion.
We haven't had the best lightweight ever talk in a while. I don't want to have it now, but I want to put it down in my notes. Khabib's like 11-0 or 10-0. He's got only 1 title defense. Interesting. It would be funny to re-rank them. Remember when it was a Pettis, Edgar, Henderson, Penn triangle? Because Penn was regarded as the greatest, but he lost twice to the other guy in the argument, which is Edgar, who lost twice to the other guy, who was Henderson, who lost twice to Pettis, until Pettis went and fucked it all up by losing fights. Because he could say, hey, by the way, I'm in this. I'm a WEC guy, whatever. Yep. I don't think Pettis ever got that kind of love anyway from fans. But
we had injuries.
Have to do that one
he had injuries. When we find no disrespect to Benson or Frank Edgar, who in my opinion don't get enough credit, but let's be honest, those title runs were not memorable. They were a bunch of close decision rematches where half of the time the judges were getting it wrong, and they were just a bunch of decisions where when BJ was in there, he was finishing dudes, he was putting them away, he was packing the stands with guys like The Rock to Jason Statham, which hadn't been done before. So if you want to talk about the Conor McGregor effect, what was good for the division, like, man, I don't know. He stacks it up for me. I like
He's
Eddie.
the most important lightweight ever, for sure.
Jens Pulver right there. Jens Pulver, in my opinion, is always the godfather. But Jens, Eddie Alvarez, and BJ are like my top 3 right there. You know what I'm saying? Obviously,
Eddie can have some bragging rights if he
does
goes
now.
down to 1 and wins. I mean, that's not the most stacked organization. Lightweights in a stacked organization, but still, when you look back and you just read the books, you'll go, "Oh wow, that was that was a tough, that was a respected organization. He won that belt. He won the Bellator belt. He won the UFC belt. He'll be up there in that type of talk."
Yes, sir.
I thought Gil got Benson.
Me too.
There were a lot of those.
Yeah.
That time period.
But we can't.
I know you can't count it, but I'm just saying. Like,
somebody did that to me today. Who was it?
Say
I'd have to find it. It was on Twitter. Who did we promote on Twitter today? Did you guys see my tweet?
Ryan Bader.
Oh, I'll look it up. You guys talk.
Okay.
Okay. Well, can I bring something up?
Sure.
So, this is completely different from the topic.
All right.
Okay. I was thinking about this. Sakuraba is in the UFC Hall of Fame. He had 1 UFC fight.
Yeah.
It was a really long time ago.
Yes.
But mostly because of his work through Pride. Okay. Does that mean that Fedor Emelianenko is available to become one of those guys, even though he never had a fight in the UFC, because of what he did in Pride? Could he someday be in the UFC Hall of Fame because of that?
Yeah.
Or does he have to have at least 1 fight in the UFC? And would that day ever come?
No one's in that's been outside the UFC.
Did he ever fight? Did he ever fight for the Zuffa version of Strikeforce when Strikeforce was technically operating under alone. Obviously, he fits the other criteria as far as to.
Or would they even? I don't know.
That's the problem. He should. He's gotta be in there.
Gotta.
You know what I mean? He's gotta be in there. So I would hope.
Good talks.
I would hope that the UFC Hall of Fame is going to be like the NFL Hall of Fame. Did you know the NFL Hall of Fame, we call it that? It's not the NFL Hall of Fame. It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But it's based around basically the NFL.
It's guys who created it, right?
So technically, if the UFC wanted to go, well, but they call there's the UFC Hall of Fame. And, I guess we'll have to read and see what the criteria is. But, I mean, if you're ever going to make an exception, it'd definitely be that guy.
Did you find it?
I think. Where was it?
It
was one of those assholes that follows me too. That's always doing that shit.
Maybe this will help spark it because we were talking about close fights, right? And yeah, there's a lot of those. I think even one of them. I think the one in Denver with Frankie and Benson. You could argue that if Benson doesn't hit that up kick that busts Frankie's nose for round 3 onward, that the judges would have maybe given some of those rounds, which were close. To Frankie, like some people scored him. That I know that was one at the time. Not like obviously no robbery or anything like that. No disrespect to either guy, but that was a critical talking point. And there was just a lot of those. And then I was excited because we get Anthony Pettis, kind of like what George was alluding to when he was recapping it. But like we said, Pettis had a lot of injuries and things didn't fall out. Whether it was a super fight with Aldo, which I think actually happened before he got the title, before that little rumor. But yeah, that didn't happen that well, and it's been this crazy turnover. Dos Anjos had a really underrated run, obviously, and he was putting guys away. But he gets beat by Eddie Alvarez, and it almost dovetails into the Eddie Alvarez story, which I would argue, as underrated as Dos Anjos is.
Bellator on UFC.
That, I mean, yeah, you want to hear Anik, by the way, like really kind of Anik's so good about staying professional, not making the moment about him, and he doesn't hear, but you can just hear a different level of pride because he called early Bellator stuff. Anik did, or Alvarez's early run there.
Yeah, he did season 1.
Yeah, and just to see him make that journey, that was big. That was a big weekend. Alvarez was like a plus 325 dog or something crazy. I remember.
Against RDA.
Yep.
It was when the UFC had 3 events back to back to back. I think it happened Thursday night on Fight Pass.
Yeah, it was. Yep, you're right. Yeah. 3 events.
All right, so here it is. I like this guy. I know a lot of people don't, but all I did was retweet Jiu-Jitsu, which is Joseph Benavidez, and it's the audiogram that Jumbo Josh does. I threw in my own little comment, or did I? Yeah, I think I did. And then he goes, and then just the first guy says, the only guy says, I thought Cejudo won that first fight, which I guess, but like, it loses its steam. You know what I mean? Like, I wish it was like the 3rd or 4th comment.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I know what you mean. Yeah, those gets me too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought him up though, because I was actually going to ask you guys. Was it Joe that said? Was he talking about Nova and Yao saying Day doesn't leave the house for nothing? Remember that someone quoted that. Was that Joe Jitsu or was it a?
I don't think so.
Pederneiras.
Yeah, about Pederneiras.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe he was talking about when he was in TJ's corner for the Barral fights, or might have been in reference to that. And he was
talking about that.
And he's like, yeah, one of our jiu-jitsu guys, Fabian. Maybe was he talking about the Fabian or whatever? He knows the over Yagos. He goes, see that over there? Day's with him. JD don't leave the house for nothing. And I just sticks with me. I'm like, oh.
I know 2 Day-Days. One was a girl and one was our neighbor. And I was like, where in the hell did he get Day-Day? But yeah.
Day had the best Frank Mir face ever.
That's his nickname, yeah. Andre Pederneiras, they call him
kind of like Ice Cube.
Day, our neighbor?
Yeah. He just had this good Frank Mir face.
Yeah.
That didn't ring a bell to either of you guys, though? You don't remember? It had to be within the 2 weeks, if not a week.
Kind of.
No longer than 2 weeks.
Kind of, now that you said it. At first I was so lost in, like, who in the hell?
Because they were talking about nobody washes, like, Nova and Yao fighters. Like, they'll beat them, but nobody ever knocks them out of the, blows them out of the water. It's always competitive fights or something. Like that was the conversation point. And, yeah, I don't know.
I wanted to see Nova and Yao and Team Alpha Male kind of have, like, an ACC Big Ten challenge, where it's just...
That'd be fun.
Yeah, but that was back in the day. Now Team Alpha Male, they haven't disbanded, but a lot of their stars. Is Mendes retired, by the way?
I don't think so.
I heard he did.
Yeah?
I heard he retired. I went, he looked, he's still on the UFC website, but other websites that track this stuff, it said retired.
Chad?
Yeah, after his loss. And I heard him say, like, considering it or something. I thought, emotions, we'll get back to it Monday. But between him and Dillashaw, Benavidez, they're all kind of in different directions. And then, of course, all those older now. Marlon, Sandro retired. But back in the day, I thought it would have been interesting to see if they could fight.
Marlon had a fun run
in many different organizations. All right, so we're back to Poirier. He's basically, I mean, he kind of did the same thing when I was joking around. I don't like this, you know, with what Khabib says. He says this company's #1 bullshit. He's really, really mad at how the UFC is treating this and just letting this go on. I mean, I see the UFC's point. They had to wait till yesterday to see what they could map out. But something will be mapped out. And it looks like Khabib will fight in November. He'll get what he wants. But Conor versus Cowboy, I imagine, is lukewarm now. What happens to Tony Ferguson? I think Poirier and Ferguson will mix it up.
You think they'll put that together?
Which, by the way, you're knocking off a contender there. But that's a deep division. They can do that.
I see all of his points. It's just I don't know if this is the battle that he wants to fight. And I commend him for doing it. But I just don't know that he's in the situation to really, in a division like that, to just say I'm not going to fight because there's so many guys that they just go to after that. Well, I could just see them saying, okay, we'll just go to the next guy. And it sucks, but I commend him for trying to do it. I just don't know how far he'll get with it.
I know what you mean, but at the very least, I would say it's a great conversation starter. I mean, kind of alluding to a possible daily debate there, which, by the way, you came up with another good daily debate that I wanted to bookmark in my head. Goes.
Just right now?
Yeah, when we were talking about division or Fedor Hall of Fame and stuff like that. Just that's a good one.
Did you guys see Artem Lobov? He got cut.
I thought that I thought didn't he leave or didn't he ask to get cut?
Did he?
I thought he asked to be cut.
All right. Well, he's no longer with the UFC.
Cut me, Nick.
We know that. And he went to Twitter, right? So I'll try and do my best to go in chronological order. But it was funny because him and Ben Askren got into it a little bit.
Can you do an Artem Lobov and a Ben Askren voice for the audience?
Artem Lobov. No, I can't.
They would both come off offensive if you tried to make an accent.
Probably,
there,
yeah. He says, Artem Lobov at Roos Hammer MMA, locked and loaded, ready to take on anyone and everyone who wants it. No, anyone and everyone. Then he stops, who wants it? And he tags Bellator, KSW, Ryzen, Bare Knuckle. I think he'd do good at Bare Knuckle. He likes to throw hands. You know what I mean? That's his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he likes
get out of MMA for a little while. Because he's 13 and 15, so it's not like when he's with part of SBG and he comes with Conor, yes, you can have him co-main event or do whatever. But outside of that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's a ticket seller if he goes to KSW. Maybe I'm wrong. I like the guy, though. He cracks me up. He played a good Robin to Conor's Batman.
Nice guy.
Won championship,
Every fighter
ACA.
That's fought him said he's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and his fights, they're fun. Yeah, Cub Swanson gave him a lot of respect.
I got 6 syllables for you guys.
For Artem
Ryzen Open Weight Grand Prix.
Did they announce that?
No, but come on, Lobov in an Open Weight Grand Prix. How great would that be?
Okay.
Right.
Get him in there.
I mean, we've seen guys like, did you see how fast Ryzen turned Darren Cruikshank kind of into a star out there? Like, I don't see why Artem couldn't do something like that too.
Hey, and Damian Brown got the W over him. He was on the show recently, and he was calling actually for what do you call speaking cross promotion and Risen? I think it was Patricio or Patricky. I think was calling for something like I want to go to Japan for a fun match, and Damian Brown.
Darren Caldwell did it.
Yeah,
and lost. We never got around to talking about that. Horiguchi beat.
That's right.
Yeah. Darren Caldwell, but he doesn't lose his Bellator belt. But still, that one had to sting a little bit. You know, not that Coker loses sleep, but still, you don't really want your champions losing. I have to believe that he thought he was sending a monster down to take care of. You know, and he got taken care of.
Yeah, I just want to connect that thought real quick. I was going to say, Patricky tweeted out that he wanted to do something similar, right? And of course, Damian Brown, who was recently on our show, apropos, responded essentially, I'll be your Huckleberry. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down with that one. All right, so Lobov says, next, K1 has always been on my radar, proper fights. Bukal, Senkai, send them my way. It would be a huge honor to share the ring with him. So far, he's being pretty respectful about his cut, and he's letting the world know fairly, like, hey, look, I'm willing to go anywhere. So that's a tag to glory. one of the leading, if not the leading, kickboxing promotion. He keeps going. Malianaji and Khan and I are ready to go. No, he says, Malianaji and Khan, I am ready to go next Saturday. Where you's at? That's pretty funny. And lastly, he says, boxing is a great sport, but it lacks entertainment lately. Time to bring in the big guns. Who wants it? As he's doing this, Ben Askren, who also cracks me up.
Ben's great, dude.
It sucks when two people that I like all of a sudden turn on each other, you know, because like, oh, man, now I got to pick a side, who to laugh at, who to laugh at. I'm just laughing with both of them, honestly. But Ben Askren, he's just, that's his thing, I guess. You know, he's checked everybody, man. Sajara Eubanks, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's a regulator.
He pretty much does, and it's actually really, really funny. He's very clever. He's got an undefeated record, some shiny belts, a decorated wrestling career. So he can actually just stand at the top of the building and shout kind of whatever he wants. It's hard to really build a comeback against them.
I thought you were going to say something different when he was standing on top of the building, but yeah.
No. And so he says, he says, you literally stink at fighting. Your record is 13-15. No. He says, did the goat get cut first? And then as they get going, he says, Artem, you literally stink at fighting. Your record is 13-15. I'm glad you're living the gimmick because we're all getting a good laugh at it. He also says, are you trolling me? Because there's no way you actually believe this, right? As they're firing back and forth. But here's where I think Artem won this little exchange. Did you see this, by the way?
I didn't read it all, but yeah, I saw it. They were going at each other.
He told him, well, first he answered respectfully, and I'm fucking jumping around from all these different links here. So I'm tripping up. But first he told him, relax there, Ben. I went the true fighter's road and fought the best at every turn. I came up short often, but I gave it my all every time and never quit and hid from a challenge like some. He didn't even say like you. He just said like some. Kind of like to get him to back off a little bit, right?
That's a great answer to me. I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. But then he skidded him, man. Really, really good. Let me see if I can find it. I mean, he jacked him up, guys.
Artem jacked Ben up.
A little bit, I thought. He says...
That's hard to do.
Fucking this Twitter nightmare right now, man. Can't find it.
Hey, just a quick reminder to everybody. Tomorrow's show is actually going to be 2 hours earlier. Not at our normal start time. It'll only be 4 tomorrow. Friday we'll be back at our normal time. Isn't that right, George?
Yeah, thanks, Ghost. Thanks for saving me for 15 seconds. Keep going.
And here's the thing about tomorrow. It's the day after Hump Day. What do you call that day?
Of course, you guys can call into the show. We only have one guest for the second hour. 877-344-4893.
You guys are going to have to host the show.
This is a good time to call in, guys. Good time to call in. We can actually get to some calls.
And that one guest, of course, is Aljamain Sterling, UFC
Aljo.
bantamweight. Can't wait to talk to him. His camp is kind of on a little bit of a roll, and I think when they are like that, they all feed off each other. It makes everything interesting. Aljo's a good friend of the show. He's got his chain. We call him Brutus, but he will be on the show. And like Dan stated, call in.
Also,
sound off. Today's a good day for that.
People sounding off in the chat. DJ Tony giving us a shout. Miss listening to them live. We miss you too, DJ Tony. Alex Susser says, talk about some of the more strategic fighters in MMA. We were talking about Aldo, who is one of the most. He's a ruthless politician, as I call him, because he'll win rounds. He'll do everything possible, and a lot of the best fighters will. But he's facing one of the more strategic fighters quietly, even though he's a young guy in Moicano. Moicano changes his fighting style between different opponents. You know, he was playing stick and move when it came to Jeremy Stevens, but he was more willing, to stay in the pocket with guys like, Ortega. Granted, even though he won 2 rounds on Ortega, ended up getting, of course, caught with the guillotine in the 3rd. But I really like that battle for that reason, because it's 2 strategic fighters, and it's one of those things where, same with we saw Donald Cerrone, Alex Hernandez, where Cerrone, these older cats, same with Aldo, their game plans are kind of so laid out. We've seen all their habits so much before. So if these fighters know what they're looking for, they can, in theory, take advantage of them. But easier said than done, as we saw with Hernandez and Cerrone, and perhaps maybe this Saturday. So there's some strategic fighter talk for you. Thanks for contributing there in the chat, Alex.
I've always liked St. Pierre and the way how he could just turn it around, and just depending on his opponent.
Pound for pound, number
one.
one.
Wrestle Fitch, he'll outstrike Alves. Just like there's just certain things that he'll do that'll kind of throw you off. I always thought he was good, and I know a lot of people don't like this guy, but Tyron Woodley. I mean, I think some of the fights that he's had maybe haven't been fan friendly, but the strategy behind it, I kind of understand what he's doing.
Absolutely.
All right, shout out to Low Kick MMA.
All right.
It looks like they got it correctly, like in sequential order. And since I was all over the place, I just want to go to the actual best punchline out of it all. So Ben's kind of been beating him 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. By that, Artem came over the top like in round 4 or 5 or whatever this is and just KO'd him. And the comments agreed with me, man. He finally, after he had gone back and forth being the nice guy, I fought the best at every turn, blah, blah, blah. That's when Ben Askren told him, "Are you trolling me? Because there's no way you actually believe this, right?" Artem told him, "Relax there, Ben." Oh, no, I already said that. He said, "Mate, you were hiding in Asia fighting retired Nike factory workers. Win a real fight, then talk. Pube head."
Damn.
God almighty, man. And you should have seen the comments. They were like, "Oh, my God, you got whacked." I laughed out loud because Pube head was hilarious. And you know what? I can laugh at that, too. I used to have a little bit of a mop head as well. Not like Ben Askren. But I'm glad no one ever called me that one when I was little. You know what I mean? Pube head. I mean, it looked like he had enough, and so he landed, I thought, the KO blow there.
I will say that's a good one, of course, but to play devil's advocate, I got to imagine Pube head of all things for Ben Askren. He's got to be like the crocodile hunter. He's got to have the anti-venom for it, like Snake, right? Because he's been bit by that one so many times. Like, if we're doing the tally mark, like, you look at all the hairstyles he had through college as an adult, like, he always had that. Like, that was the one factor that if you're smart or not, you're going to pick up and you're going to reach for that first. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know that
before.
He hasn't fired back since then that I can tell.
Maybe he did get the knockout.
So maybe
then,
he was just like, all right, I'm done, or who knows what. But what happens is, if you look at their Twitter, you can see what they're saying. But then yet sometimes you have to go in the comment, in the thread itself.
I don't like
and
the
that's
way,
where all of a sudden
Twitter, dude.
You get lost a little bit. But, yeah, it doesn't look like he said anything since then. That was a good one. All right. I think we got to do one more break, so let's do that one right now. You are listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Do what they say, and your life will be...
Radio Channel 88, the New England feed can be heard on Sirius 82 XM 226, and the Los Angeles call is on Sirius 83 XM 225. Set your radio presets now. You can listen on your phone and at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. New England Patriots are -2.5 they're favored by 2.5 to defeat the Los Angeles Rams at Super Bowl 53. Any thoughts on that, Ghost?
I'm starting to lean towards we need to be going towards the Rams. Working in the, well, not working for the sportsbook, but having our studio in the sportsbook, you hear a lot of things. And normally what people are saying out there, they're usually wrong. And all I keep hearing is, the Pats, we got to take the Pats. I think this is the time to strike.
Well, it's 56.5 is the total, and 2.5 is the line. If you are going to take the Pats, take it before it goes to 3. If you're going to play the Rams, wait till it gets to 3. At one point, it was Rams -1, so anything you get after this is an addition to. You know what I mean? You're not giving up anything. You're getting, and it really could be like a 28-27 game. But I think the funner is to go with the Rams, the underdog. It just sounds like more fun to me. That's what I'll be rooting for. You?
Yeah, that's definitely. I don't hate the Patriots the way other people do. I'm just tired of seeing them win.
Dan, I know you could care less about football, but do you at least care about the Super Bowl, or is that still filed under I don't give a shit?
Not really, although I will say my parents used to throw wow. I haven't said that in a while. They used to throw the biggest, awesomest Super Bowl parties when I was a kid, and it was always a good time. So like watching those classic Buffalo Bills and Cowboys, or maybe that those the early '90s and stuff, like those are my Super Bowl memories. I had a Super Bowl 30 T-shirt that I used to rock all the time, and I liked Cordell Stewart because he would run a lot as a quarterback.
Stewart, they called him.
That commercial where he's the paper boy, and he's just blasting people with newspapers. That's still one of my favorite sports commercials. You guys remember that one?
I don't.
Like I remember Slash like, hey, and he's like, hey there, and he's like,
I remember when he beat the University of Michigan.
Takes his arm.
When he was yeah, he was from Colorado. He beat the University of Michigan. Me and my buddy Gabe made all kinds of money. We were laughing our asses off. It was a Hail Mary. All right, it's the top of the hour break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Aljamain Sterling. So stay close. Don't touch that dial. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93.
Are you talking about Colorado?
During the commercial break, they were probably talking smack about their next guest, but now they're going to act like they're all cool with him. Here they are, George and Goes.
All right, we're back and ready to start the second hour. One of our favorites to have on the show, his name's Aljamain Sterling. Fights in the UFC's bantamweight division. He's been ranked for a long time. That means he's banging against all the best fighters in that division. He's already fought Caraway, Asuncao, Marias, Stamen, Brett Johns, Henan Barao. Really, really good names, man. He's 16-3 overall, and I think he's approaching like his 12th fight in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So the next one, guys, this guy's done it all. He's traveled, all over to fight. Although he hasn't done international yet. I've noticed that. But he's traveled all over the United States to fight. However, what he hasn't done is fight on ESPN. This is the big ESPN card, the first one of the UFC era. headlined by Francis Ngannou and Cain Velasquez. So that'll be pretty epic, man, to see MMA on big ESPN. Aljamain Sterling will be fighting Jimmy Rivera, and Aljo joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Aljamain? How you doing?
What's happening, fellas?
Not much. Hey, you got warrants or what? How come you don't travel international? How'd you dodge that bullet? You can't leave the country?
Nah, I could travel international to travel. I don't really know if I want to travel to fight, but it might be in the future. It might be in the cards in the future.
Have they ever asked you and you turned it down, or they just never got around to asking you?
I was actually supposed to fight in Australia against Frankie Saenz in my second UFC appearance, but then Frankie Saenz actually ended up getting hurt, so they scratched the fight and they couldn't find me a replacement, and I got to hang out in Australia for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, yeah, you've never fought abroad, but okay, here we go. You are fighting on big ESPN, so that's going to be really damn cool. Like the sport's taking yet another step up, you know what I mean? And you're on that card, and it's got a nice main event. It's in a cool city, Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, did you ever think when you started this sport that you'd be fighting on ESPN?
Nah, man. This is a dream come true. This is the first ever ESPN card, the big ESPN. It's not ESPN Plus, even though both platforms are still huge. But this is the mecca of all sports. So to be able to just put my skills on display for the world is going to be something to remember. So I got to make sure I go out there and show up.
And you fought on big cards. You fought on pay-per-views. You fought on big Fox. Fox has got just as, they're in just as many homes. But Fox shares all forms of entertainment with their viewers, whereas ESPN, that's it. Like ESPN's, every guy that's 18 to 35, when he gets home and he turns on the TV, it's either on 206 if you got DirecTV, or you just go straight to ESPN. I mean, this is awesome, and I'm stoked that they chose you guys to kind of highlight the prelim portion of the card. You and Jimmy Rivera, you guys are probably trailing. You're the next fight after what's happening this weekend with Assunção and Moraes in terms of title talk.
Yeah, for sure. I know they got the Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munoz fight, but I mean, Cody already fought TJ twice, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to really get back in there if he is to take out Pedro. I think he's got a few kinks in his armor that he needs to work out, and Pedro's on fire right now, so that's going to be a really interesting matchup. There's a lot of high-profile fights right now going on in the bantamweight division, and the whole craziness with Cejudo beating TJ like that and the way he did it at flyweight, and now he's going to be coming up to 35. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the division, but I got to just make sure I keep my name in the hat and come out of Phoenix with a win.
All right, here's where I probably may piss people off. I don't know. But what did you think of your champion of your weight class losing to the flyweight champion? Like, did it trickle down to you guys? Like, I heard a lot of flyweights, hey, Henry, win it, and so that we can keep the flyweight division. Not necessarily because they were Henry fans, but they were fighting for their jobs. But as far as you, when your champion lost to the lighter weight class, like, did it bug you, or did you hear any chatter amongst other bantamweights like, oh man, our champ, let us down, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the one interview from Marlon Moraes, and I heard Jimmy Rivera's interview actually probably about an hour ago, talking about it. It doesn't necessarily bother me. I look at it like that's his first time getting down to 125. I don't think he's competed at 125 since college, and I think the fight was stopped a tad bit too early.
Okay.
And at 125, I think my personal opinion, he looked a little depleted, even though he said everything went great. Everyone says that for the cameras, for the interviews. But behind closed doors, that's the real truth when you got to look yourself in the mirror. And I think when he got shoved over like that by Henry, even though his feet were a little crossed up, that was a telltale sign of this might get ugly really quick. And I think at 135 would be different, but I don't want to see that right now. I want to see TJ fight a bantamweight and get this division moving.
Yeah, me too. And now that I think about it, you're right. It's like he took off his bantamweight jersey and went and became a flyweight. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he did. Yeah. I think it'd be worse had Henry gone up and beat him at the higher weight class. So he'd maybe take a little bit more. I respect TJ a lot. I've enjoyed covering him since Tough, but yeah, it just didn't go his way. at the fight out at the forum. All right, Goes, what do you have for Aljamain Sterling, our guest, who's fighting Jimmy Rivera on ESPN?
Aljamain, so when George was going through the guys that you have fought, it's a who's who of that division. And at your age, you've had a lot of UFC fights at the highest level. Jimmy Rivera, the style that he brings to the table, is it anything different than what you've faced before in the past? Is he bringing a different wrinkle?
Not at all. I think the main thing Rivera brings to the table is he's tough, he's well-disciplined, and he doesn't quit. So it's going to be my job out there to find a little hole in the octagon to expose it, get him down to the mat, or even on the feet. I feel like I can strike with him on the feet. I feel like I struck with higher level guys who mix it up better than he does. He's very disciplined with his counterattacks. He throws the same combinations almost every single fight. Like I said, I fought guys who do a lot more diverse striking, and this is going to be no different. I just got to make sure my head is on right. I show up, and I go out there and go get what's mine.
You've relatively been a pretty healthy guy in your career, and you stay very active. This fight will come early in the year for you. How many more do you think you'll be able to churn out this year?
If all goes well, like, barring any injuries, for some reason I do have some issues with my neck. That's one of the things that's been plaguing me probably since college, just on and off with the herniated bulging disc. And I'm just hoping that I can get out of this one and not have to take such a long layoff. I would have fought last year at the end of the year if I had a little bit more, my neck would have recovered a little bit faster. So it took me some time to heal that up, and hopefully I don't have any more injuries like that again, because it can be a little bit scary with the neck and the spine. So, just knock on wood. Hopefully I can get in there 3 more times.
I got to imagine the doctor said, "Dog, you can't wear that giant chain. That's what's going on with that neck." Right? You covered that, right?
I got to use that for my neck muscles, man.
All right. Dan Tom, our fight analyst, what do you have for Aljamain Sterling?
Well, I was going to say, if his neck wasn't all right, I'm looking at his Instagram now, he wouldn't be doing rounds with Merab Dvalishvili. Is that correct, Aljo?
Yeah, man, that guy is a freaking animal. He does not stop. His new nickname needs to be Merab the Machine Dvalishvili, because that guy could come off the couch and he could push a hard 3 rounds with anybody. I've never seen anyone who spars as many rounds as he does. He'll come in, hey, you want to move around? And then it'll turn to a full-on sparring session, and then he'll ask the next guy, hey, you want to move around? And turn to a full-on sparring session, and then the next day he's got an actual sparring session with me. I'm like, this guy is out of control, but God bless that I actually have training partners who can push me like that, because that's my secret weapon when it comes to cardio. I don't have to do anything else. I can just work out with that guy once or twice a week, and I'll be in shape for the fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, even just looking at both your guys' styles. I mean, obviously for the reasons you said, he's a nightmare in a complimentary way. But I imagine your guys' styles kind of complement each other too. He's gonna give you that pressure and that tougher look, and you're gonna give him those transitional, honest looks and keeping him honest too. Even though, like you said, he's a Tasmanian devil. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. If he gets me down, he keeps me honest, working to get back to my feet. If I take him down, there's no resting period where I can just hold on to him and lay on him. Unless I could get his back and I could keep the hooks in for a while before he figures out a way out. For the most part, it's constant. If I would love to post a clip, but it's such a weird thing with posting sparring sessions, because you don't want it to make it look like you're winning. You don't want it to make it look like you're getting beat up at the same time. So it's like it's got to be like an even trade-off. So I do want to post something just to show the fans and everyone the type of work that we're putting in. But I think people would be just blown away by the pace that we put on in the gym. People think it's an actual fight. So, man, I'm excited, man. February 17th is right around the corner. I just got to go out there and do what I do best. Keep it backpack style.
Absolutely. Obviously, you're focused on that, and maybe to the point, I don't know about now in camp, where you're almost you might be sick of that. But let me ask you about another matchup, because I like listening to you break stuff down, Aljamain, not just on this show, but in interviews and other things before. But 2 gentlemen you have experience, obviously, are sharing the spotlight this weekend, and I just want to know how you see that fight going between Assunção and Moraes. Do you have an opinion on that one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very back and forth like it was in the first matchup. I'm actually about to rewatch it again for the 3rd time. I do feel Assunção landed some big significant shots that had Moraes take a knee or knock him over to the side. Like the end of the first round, I think he clipped him with 2 big right hands. that staggered him and had Moraes on wobbly legs for a little bit. The end of the third round, I think he dropped him early in the third, and then Moraes started to rally back towards the end and was throwing the heavy kicking attack, and then he finished it up with some good combinations, and then he just put his hands up right in the air to kind of play to the judges a little bit. But it was such a good technical fight. You got both guys who are great at Muay Thai. They're throwing kicks, they're checking kicks, returning kicks exactly how you're supposed to do it, the way you drill it in the room. And I really don't know unless Moraes can pull out some magic bat leg out of his pocket again and knock him out in the first round. I think this one's probably going to go the distance again. And now that it's 5 rounds, that makes a big difference. If I'm going to have to pick a side, I'm going to say Moraes is probably going to fade in the championship rounds. And I think that might play the difference just because he's more muscle bound. That's just my personal opinion. You haven't seen him in the later rounds yet against anyone as high caliber as a Sun South. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. But I'm leaning towards the side of Mr. Split Decision King and Rafael Sun South.
That's a good nickname.
Yeah. Well, I am glad that you said that because I also think of Sun South, the further it goes, the more it favors him. And he's an underdog. We're in Vegas, and so I like to look at the underdogs. And I think there's a play there. You're right, man. He manages to pull out these decisions, and there's something to also beating somebody once before. So it was great to hear you break that down like that. Yeah. So we really appreciate it. Now, tell me a little bit about your podcast, The Weekly Scraps. Is this what you're doing on that one, or are you stepping outside the MMA bubble and talking other stuff? Tell the listeners of Junkie Nation a little bit what they can expect if they go down the Weekly Scraps lane.
All right, so I just started a new podcast, and I've been wanting to do it for a while now. And I've done something like this before with Ally Quinton, where we were trying to do like picking opposite sides of the fence, and we try to argue each pick's way of victory. So if I pick someone, I will pick the opposing opponent, and we'll try to figure out what their tools were to victory and who can win, and so forth, so on and so forth. That was called the Al's Breakdown, but after we both got heavily involved into the real estate and, Al's little not so little issues with Uncle Dana, things started to kind of, I don't want to say fall apart, but he got a little bit busy with the showings of the house and really trying to make some money in that avenue, in that regards, to bring home the bacon. And I was still focusing on training, so our schedules kind of clashed. So I want to say maybe a year or two later, now I started doing this. I break down fights. I talk about my training. And I just added a segment called Ask the Weekly Scraps. This way, if fans have a question, they want to ask anything about training, dieting, all that good stuff, my cheat meals. Someone was asking me about that. And I'm on episode 7, so I just put it out today. And here we are. I'm having fun with it. I enjoy breaking down fights on Twitter. I do it for free, so why not make something out of it and see what it could turn into?
Very cool. All right. Well, I'm glad we talked about it. Hopefully, we can get some of our listeners to go over there and try it out. And obviously, it sounds like this is going to be a weekly thing. Like you're gonna try and be pretty consistent with this, or does it revolve only around fight cards?
Yeah, I'm a fighter first, so it's going to be weekly. I'm just trying to do one a week, and if it's a slow week where there's no fights upcoming, then I'll more so talk about training or break down techniques. I'm trying to figure out how these guys like Joe Rogan and these other guys implement the phones and get the cameras. I record this in my car, which is kind of funny. I call it the stew. So I go to the stew, and I just started setting up my camera, and I'm trying to do clips, and I'm stopping and pausing, and so I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this because I'm a one-man army right now, and hopefully I can add some visual effect to this, so this way people can actually see the techniques and things that I'm breaking down with my hands. I think the hand gestures will actually make things make a little bit more sense, so that people can see where I'm coming from with the skill set and the technique breakdown.
Can we give you some advice? We've been doing this for 11 years.
That would be much appreciated.
Here's what you do, Aljamain Sterling. Pick out a week. All right? Fly out to Vegas. You do the Performance Institute. But every day you co-host MMAjunkie Radio with us for 1 week. And we'll show you all the ins and the outs of how to put that together. And you'll kind of get comfortable with all the different types of styles of interviews and things like that. So maybe you can blend some of that in. But you'll see how phone lines work, all that stuff. But you co-host for 1 week with us.
Yeah, I'm 100% down for that.
All right, and before you ask, yes, we will go to the Spearman Rhino, at night just to hang out or whatever.
Yeah. They got a microphone too.
All right, bro. Well, listen, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for, that we've seen them on ESPN do the prelims, and they're promoting ESPN Plus, but we're going to get, I think they're committed to like 8 to 10 fights on big ESPN, so it's going to be a fun night, man. And the fight with Rivera, like, both of you took a hard loss, with the one with Moraes, but like I told you, when you fought Brett Johns, I could tell that you said fuck it, and like you're being a lot more of a risk taker. You're blending it with strategy, and you look like a very, very determined fighter. Like, you really, really turned it up. Same thing, you kept it going with Stamen, but at the same time, I got to give Rivera credit too. He looked good after his loss as well. So man, this is going to be a awesome fight between two New Yorkers, the city versus Strong Island. Cannot wait. So stay healthy and safe travels to Phoenix, Arizona, and good luck, man, on ESPN Plus 1. Or, sorry, ESPN 1.
Thank you. I look forward to starting the ESPN deal off the right way. Getting this thing off to the right foot.
I like it.
All right, brother. Take care. Enjoy your night.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you. Follow him on Twitter, folks, at @funkmaster_UFC. And again, give him a little bit of support. Nobody's saying you got to fall in love with it, but give it a listen. You can tell within 10 minutes if you're going to dig something or not. I listened to like 3 episodes of Mercedes and Terrell and Jade Bryce. It's called The Magic Hour. We promoted it on the show. I caught their first episode when we had them on, but I hadn't caught one since then, even though I'm a subscriber. And I figured, okay, I can't just sit there and talk a game. And I did the 2 MMA ones for sure, which was Phil Davis and Jimmy Smith. And man, I mean, they had a great conversation with Phil Davis about travel and just finding out a lot of stuff that I didn't know. In fact, have you ever seen when he poses how he's just got like the huge lats?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just, built like an Adonis. Basically, from what I gather, I can't wait to have him on the show. He talked about when he was at Penn State, the coaches just pushed him, right? But the one thing he had to do was the ropes. And I'm thinking that's probably what did it. And he said he'd be suspended like 20 feet in the air. He goes, man, I could take a fall. Obviously that hits home. But I could take a fall and something could happen here, But I was listening to it going, wow. I was putting 2 and 2 together. But he talked about traveling to Egypt, and it was really, really fun episode. So if you only want to give him some MMA love, just listen to those 2. But then they had, some other lady as well. And so they do spiritual and psychological and some mom stuff with Jade and travel stuff. But it was pretty cool. So anyway, my point is give Aljo a shot and let's check this out. See how it is.
Definitely, I'm stoked on that, and I can sentiment with what he was saying about being a one-man army. I think I might need to get some of those advice, even just from what George said. The first 10 minutes, that has me sweating. I usually spend my first 10 minutes a bit ranting and getting into the episode, so that probably explains my listenership. So I'm going to note that. And by the way, if you're listening to that podcast, first 20 minutes, give me a shot.
Protect your neck.
Yeah.
All right. So, Aljamain Sterling versus Jimmy Rivera. Just, I know you don't want to do a prediction right now, but just tell me which way you're leaning. That's a tough one, dude.
It is.
That is a tough fight to predict.
I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling. He's starting to figure things out a little bit more, and I could just see him getting a hold of Jimmy and frustrating Jimmy.
Okay. Jimmy is faster than I thought. I thought he wasn't going to be as fast against, I think it was Dodson. He fought Dodson, right?
Yep.
I thought he was going to have a lot of problems with that, but man, that dude's got some very, very fast hands. He, I think, learned a lot from the Moraes fight, and I think he also said, F this, like I got to go for this, because otherwise the sport's going to pass me by. The same way he passed up Faber, someone's going to pass him up if he doesn't turn on. I see the same thing with Aljo. Aljo's got the reach, and Aljo's got almost unforgiving jiu-jitsu if he can get you down. But I don't know if it'll be as easy with Jimmy Rivera. So I can't wait. Maybe I should have been more of a man. I mean, I wouldn't have asked this on the air, but it sucks to say this on the day that I had him on the show, but I might be leaning a little bit towards Rivera right now.
Oh, yeah, that would have sucked to say
because of those hands.
Hey,
well, if he asked, I would have told him, but Aljo's got the reach is very, very important. I like it. I like looking into that. Dan's got me really, really looking at a lot of the southpaw fighters and the successes that they have. And I don't know why I didn't think of that years ago. I used to think about it from boxing for sure, but in MMA, just so much is so many advantages there. But how about you, Dan? You want to save it for fight week, or do you have an early lean?
No, you know me. I mean, I always like to save it, and I try not to get too into things because, like, I have this weird thing where I feel like like Joey Adesso always says, don't watch the countdowns. It's kind of like that theory. I just kind of expand, and I'll see people get into it on Twitter. So I won't get into it that deep, but this is fair. Like, for example, I would see in my mind early lean. I line this about a pick'em. I could see the odds makers, maybe to your point, favoring Rivera, but to be honest, even Rivera, who I picked him to beat Dotson, even that, looking at that performance and how fast he looked, I don't see him being able to blow Aljamain out of the water, because Aljamain Sterling, it's going to be, I think it's going to be like a split decision fight, probably leaning more towards Sterling, not just because we had him on the show, but just because you look at, his progressions from losses. That's way more impressive than the finishes. It's the fact where you nailed it perfectly in that Brett Johns fight, because it could have been a career-changing loss.
He looked like a beast that night.
Yeah.
He looked like he could be featherweights and lightweights that night.
And not just improving, but he's improving in the areas that, you could be critical on him before, saying, okay, well, you got to get Aljo in boxing range. You've seen a lot of opponents try to push to that. Caraway hit him with a good left hook a couple times, was really trying to push into that boxing range, but that's where Aljamain has improved on. Now, do I think he's going to smoke, or do I think it's wise for him to go head-to-head in boxing range with Rivera, where that's clearly Rivera's strength? No.
Not in the phone booth, no.
But you look at from playing kicks on the outside to being able to scramble, and even though I see him having a hard time taking Rivera down, real tough, real stout, it's probably going to be a stalemate there, but if I do have to give someone an edge, if a scramble does happen, how can you not side with Aljamain Sterling? So I would see like a split.
Or riding time if he does, whether it is a scramble or if he does secure a takedown.
Exactly.
He wrestled too, I mean, but
right.
If you ever want to have, like, I wish I could grab pieces of Aljamain's fights and just glue them together and go be that guy. But the first round against Caraway, I can't remember if he won the round or not,
he did,
but at least early on,
he had
his kickboxing was really, like, it looked like he was going to be a risk taker, and he was going to almost kick more than throw hands. I really love watching him kickbox. I was live here at the Mandalay Bay, and I was like, whoa, like, this guy really sharpened up his kickboxing. And then because he lost the fight, he kind of got away from it in other fights. Michael Johnson, same thing. One time he came out with the most amazing footwork. But once he started working with Henry Hooft, the kickboxers are, save for like guys like Thompson, a lot of them are a little bit more stationary. But Michael Johnson used to have really, really good footwork, and it was really, really tough to hit him. And if he just wanted to throw hands, you're going to have a long night. So a lot of the guys evolve or they circle back or whatever, but I'd love for him to kickbox like that and grapple like he did against Brett Johns. I don't know. I might switch by the time fight week comes, but at least that was a nice little early lean.
Was it the Poirier fight where Michael Johnson looked good with footwork?
Well, no. I mean, that one he just threw a nice right hand, but it was just after Tough. It was just after Tough. He came out, and it was the way he was just able to bounce and move around. You could just tell, like, how am I going to hit this guy? I
remember the Joe Lozon fight being the turning point for me for Michael Johnson, where I started to kind of go, oh, okay.
Really?
That's about where it happened for me.
I couldn't remember it like that, but I believe you, man. I know you watch a lot of film. All right, guys, let's do the daily debate. What do you think? You guys ready for this?
I love debates.
Sure.
All right, now this is going to be one that's going to be fun because we have options, and then we have other. And so that means, we can definitely expand a little bit on our thoughts. So here we go. Here's the question for today. Dustin Poirier is frustrated and adamant about fighting either Conor McGregor or Tony Ferguson. Who would you rather see him fight next? I want you to answer this as a fan and as a media member, Here are your choices: McGregor, Ferguson, or other. Goes.
Who am I first, the fan or the media member?
The fan. The fan's a quick one. Give me a quick response.
The fan is Conor McGregor.
All right. And the media member, like, making it all make sense.
I don't see them giving him that fight right now. I think they want to give him other. And the only other thing that makes sense is, A, if he does other, he's going to have to restructure his contract according to him, right? But I think a good other fight for him would be Nate Diaz. I think it's one of those fights where I don't think you're going to lose too much, but a lot of eyes are going to be on there. They're going to want to see that fight, and I think it would be a fun fight because every fight that involves those two guys is always fun.
So revisit what they almost did last year in New York. Okay. Dan Tom?
Yeah, I got to go with, I think Conor McGregor would make the most sense because, as you know, I'm a champion of Tony Ferguson being the right guy to fight for a title, that he already earned and didn't lose. So I would take him right out of that and go Conor McGregor. But I also agree with Goes as far as that they're not going to give it to him. So I would also like to suggest an other. Now, let me put this caveat and says this was not my top choice. I do not want to see Max Holloway go to 155 yet if he doesn't want to. But everybody keeps trying to push Max Holloway into the fold, but they're trying to push him into either the title fold or the Conor McGregor fold. I say give Max Holloway a chance to avenge his first career loss, first UFC loss to Dustin Poirier. That fight, I think they're big enough to where it could be a super fight. It could headline. It could be somewhere big, and it doesn't necessarily destroy the contender queues because you still have to weed out lightweight, obviously, what we're talking about, and even featherweight. You could argue that Volkanovski and Edgar, though, I wouldn't hate for either of those guys for their next fight to be for a title. You could see the UFC definitely pairing them together to kind of whittle out a clear contender for 45 while that fight takes place and keeps Dustin busy and would certainly back for his chances on getting a higher signing.
Right. Okay, man, you guys really nailed it. I'm going to go as a fan and say I would want Dustin Poirier to fight Conor because I think it's haunted him. He accepted it like a man, but I remember a tweet he put out the next day or 2 days after. He said, man, that one really hurt.
Yeah.
So I'd love for them to dance one more time, but at 55 because they both went up. Not to make excuses that there was a loss because of whatever reason, because they both basically drew themselves out to get to 45. All right, and as far as next, I think they are going to go with Khabib and Conor. Therefore, I think Poirier should fight Ferguson.
Man.
But I want to see him get that contract, too. Not to say I don't want to see that, but I want to see him fight Ferguson. My first choice is like Dan. I want Ferguson Khabib, but it's just what I think. I've heard it enough times now to start to believe that they're just going to revisit the rematch. And so we got to keep these two guys busy. What sucks is we're going to knock out two quality challengers, two quality title challengers for whoever's at the top. And I hate doing that. But if there's one division where this can happen, it's lightweight because you got others. You got Iaquinta. You got the Barbosa weight Gagey winner. If Kevin Lee wins, same thing. They won't have any shortage of guys. But man, how can you look Tony Ferguson in the eye? What is he, 13-1?
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I think he's 13-1 and go.
That would be brutal.
You need one more, pal, before you can fight for the time. I mean, how do you do that? And then Poirier, the year that he's had, same thing. Like, how do you keep these guys waiting? We need to start making decisions. I want to start hearing about April 13th fight bookings. Those are pay-per-view, and these are pay-per-view stars. Get on it, UFC.
Can I call for a mini debate?
In a second. Let me give you the results here. The results of the voting, it went 2,200 votes, just a little bit, came over, and 55% went with Tony Ferguson, 32% went with Conor McGregor, 13% went with other. So, sure, transition to the mini debate.
Of our other picks, I said Nate Diaz, you said Max Holloway, you said Tony Ferguson. How many of those three matchups, where is Dustin the favorite? I think he's the favorite against Nate. And I think they would make him the favorite against Max at 155. I think they would.
Wow.
I think the fans would vote it or
he wouldn't be
play it where he wouldn't
be the favorite against Ferguson.
Fight night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
but against Ferguson, I think I don't think he would be the favorite in that fight.
A lot of people don't even remember that he beat Poirier or that Poirier beat Max Holloway. In fact, Holloway I think lost 2 in a row. He lost to Bermudez the following, and then he shook it off and became world champion. But so I would say he'd be the favorite against
Nate Diaz?
Nate, because of Nate's been gone for such a long time is another thing.
He's not going to be against Tony. I think we
not
all
against
agree
Tony.
with that.
And
this one is
I think no, because he's a world champ. He's so popular now. And
think
they won't remember that, yeah.
Sounds like a cop-out to say I could see it opening -105 for a Max Poirier rematch at 155, but I wouldn't think it'd be out of the world, to Goz's point, to see it open at Poirier -110 and Holloway
really
-105, and then immediately the public just run with Holloway, then you'll have enough dog action to where people going, wait a minute, Poirier's no slouch. He already beat him. He looks even better at 155. Why don't I sprinkle over there? And then I think that's how the house stays above water in that fight.
I like it, guys. Good job. All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back. We still got some more.
They were abducted by aliens and instantly returned for radio.
The walkout song. She's carried it over from MMA to pro wrestling. I want to talk a little bit of pro wrestling because, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, one of the highlights of my January was just taking in, kind of being a kid again and going to a pro wrestling show. Drove 5 hours to get there, drove 5 hours back. But I'll tell you what, my time there was pretty fun. And it was the Royal Rumble in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'll tell you what, the women stole the show.
I thought so too.
I've heard the Busted Guys open. Shout out to Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry. Shout out to what?
You said something funny right now.
What'd I say?
You saw the Busted Guys open?
I listened to the Busted Open guys. And so shout out to Mark Henry. Shout out to Taking It Back.
The boys.
I was going to say, what tribe are you with? All right. Let's see here. Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer, and, of course, Bully. Those guys do a great job, man. And I catch their show from time to time. And I've heard them say, women's MMA, what if they highlight WrestleMania? I'm like, these guys are nuts, man. When you got – I know they still don't have The Undertaker, but when you have that guy and The Rock and Stone Cold and all these people that can make these comebacks, and they do, but still, for sure, Brock Lesnar, how in the hell are the women going to main event? You know, it just doesn't sound. But, dude, when I saw it with my own eyes, man, the Women's Royal Rumble was awesome. They kicked ass. They have a lot of stars. The fans connected. And then right after that, you had Daniel Bryan defending his WWE championship. I hope I got that right. Geeks call me out if I don't.
He's the Raw champion.
Yeah,
right?
He's something. He beat AJ Styles, who I know is another likable fighter. But it was like Go said, I'll steal his joke. It was like Quintet, right, Goes? They were grappling a lot.
A little bit.
And we were like, okay, we get it. We're MMA guys. But the fans were like, nah, man. Like, where's the acrobats? Where's the
It's not a real slow pace.
Oh, man. Really? And then after that, I go, well, I mean, Brock Lesnar and the guy he took on, I think it was Finn Balor was his name or something like that, or Finn Balor.
Finn Balor, yeah.
That wasn't so bad, you know what I mean? But it was good. Had some really good moments.
I thought you say Fit Finley. I was like, oh, that'd been a great match. Brock Lesnar versus Fit Finley, especially
now. That guy, yeah.
Now Fit Finley.
But this one was just and then the men's Royal Rumble was fun too, but the women's was it, man. And they really, really, really go crazy for Becky. Becky Lynch is her name. They call her Becky. Her and Charlotte Flair are big stars, and of course throw in Ronda Rousey as well. Man, they really got themselves something there.
I thought the two best matchups of the nights were actually the girls. I really did. And like you said, the Rumble I thought was even better. But overall, I just felt like some of the matches were just slower to develop than what I was used to. It's not like I haven't gone in a long time. I went to a Raw like last year.
There's no like ladders and tables and chairs and Hell's in the Cell and blood and
they have Elimination Chamber now and all that.
But
I don't know. It was kind of weird. But overall, yeah, it was a fun time. I thought it was great. What I didn't understand though, and pro wrestling fans, you can maybe explain this to me and Josh. I think you probably know a little bit about
matches,
that.
no barbed wire.
No. With Ronda Rousey, we're MMA fans, so we were looking forward to seeing her. And I thought, even in mixed martial arts, like there are some people that didn't like her, but overall, even when she would say crazy things, people would just gravitate to her. A lot of people were booing her, and I couldn't tell what was going on. And I guess now, Josh, you have a clip. But before you get to that clip, can you kind of explain, like, before the Royal Rumble, who is Ronda Rousey to everybody?
Now, let me be clear. I don't really watch. Like, I'll read the results and maybe watch if something is good, but I don't know. The product doesn't really connect with me that much anymore, but, I mean, I've been kind of following Ronda's trajectory, and they're trying to paint her as kind of this white meat baby face, but, you know, it's kind of clear that the lines, you know, in ring, she's been killing it. But promo-wise, it's like, and this is true of, like, the product in general, it's scripted. You could tell it's scripted. You could tell their lines. And, you know, you got to let people be themselves. You know, she's got an attitude. She's got a bit of a swagger. Like, let her go out there and use that. Or let her be what Brock Lesnar is, this badass ass-kicking machine with a mouthpiece who's one of the best talkers in wrestling history. So I think that's kind of where the storyline, you know, has kind of been, they've kind of botched it. But now she's in a storyline with Becky Lynch. Now, Becky Lynch is kind of this anti-hero, this badass who goes out there and, like, you know, she goes after baby faces and heels. It's kind of like the roles are reversed almost. That's kind of what Ronda should be doing. But yeah. I think fans to a degree are rejecting it to a degree, and it will still be, it remains to be seen how they flesh this out over the next few weeks towards Mania, but I think fans are rejecting the idea that they're supposed to cheer Ronda and boo Becky when Becky's one of theirs, and Ronda's kind of this outsider, so I think fans are just rejecting that, booing Ronda, cheering Becky,
Well, what you described with Becky Lynch, to me, sounded kind of like what Stone Cold Steve Austin's role was, right? He could take out good guys and bad guys, faces and heels.
100%. Yep.
And even when it got awkward in a grocery store with Booker T.
Yeah, everywhere.
Now I will say this: I caught Busted Open the other day, and Mark Henry and Dave LaGreca are very passionate about why are you booing Ronda? Like the fans were being unfair to Ronda, and I don't know. It might have to do. It can be her in-ring because her in-ring is awesome. So it must just be the lack of connection that she's making with the fans. And I was like, man, you know what? I'm just going to politely disagree with these guys because even though I don't follow the sport, you can't tell a fan how to feel about somebody. If you're not connecting, you're not connecting. Yep. And if they're booing them, hey, they're more than entitled to do it. Even though Ronda's won an Olympic bronze medal representing our country, even though she's won a gold at the Pan American Games representing our country, even though she's won the UFC title, even though she's become a WWE title holder, that don't matter, man. They are entitled to boo, and if they're seeing that she's being treated a certain way, in fact, I thought they got it wrong too, because they said that she's working hard and she's doing this and she's doing that, but has she really paid her dues like the other ones? No, because there's just not enough time to do that in 2 years. It takes a long time to be, that successful. Hell, they had interviewed one of the girls. Her name was Ember or something like that. I caught that, and Ember was on their show when they were previewing the Royal Rumble, and she said, I remember when we went, I think she said to the Dominican Republic or something, we were fighting in front of like 50 people, and now we're doing it in front of 50,000. So she hasn't paid those dues, and coming out of it, I mean, like, what if the crossover works that way too? What if people didn't like when she didn't shake Misha's hand, or when she did the middle fingers, or just the attitude she had towards fans in her last fight when she didn't connect with the fans like she used to? What if they didn't like that? And those are some of the ones that are booing because there are crossover fans, or they just read about her doing that. I mean, she's, I've heard a lot of stuff about her. As cool as she ever treated us when she came into our studio and when we covered her for Tough Enough, I've also heard stuff from other people where once the superstardom grew, she changed. So I don't know. I wanted to call in, but I couldn't. I was running around, running errands or whatever. But it was really, really interesting hearing the guys talk about that.
What I like about the pro wrestling world is that I think what a lot of us liked, especially with that heart of the mafia, I call it the mafia era, but the Fertitta era, where where Dana was much more open to the fans, you could say, is fair to say, than maybe today. Whereas the pro wrestling model is always subscribed to that, and perhaps Josh could speak to this more than me. I'm pretty ignorant, but from my recollection, the WWE writers and Vince McMahon himself, they're pretty good about changing script when they saw unfolding what happened. Like, he wasn't a Holocaust denier, so to speak. Like, if the crowd was booing, he's like, they're cheering my star. Like, yeah, they're not that stubborn. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm sure they'll adjust fine. But back to your point, George, the question is, how will Ronda adjust? We've seen her not react,
right,
kindly to not being ingratiated.
So her best bet would have been to start off as a heel and then maybe turn into a babyface. But coming in like that,
and we said that
with everything
in the show,
coming towards her, like all these titles and main events and the biggest feuds. I mean, I know she probably went to the WWE and said, "Listen, I'll give you 3 years, but I want to be a mom. I'm married." She's already a stepmom to Travis's other kids, so her life has already been accelerated. But I'm willing to try this, so maybe that's what it was. It's she's on the fast track or whatever. But does that sit well with the others? I don't know. Sometimes it's just straight up jealousy. I had to do it a certain way. You're going to have to do it a certain way. But going back to Ronda. Ronda, I guess, recently was on one of the shows, be it Raw or SmackDown, right? And apparently she fumbled her lines a little bit. And
I saw
listen
that.
to how the boos just come pouring in, man. If she thought MMA could be ruthless, listen to these guys and gals. Go ahead, Josh. Play that cut, please.
And so I'd like to thank Sasha Banks. I want to thank Sasha being better today than she was just. All right, you got me to stutter. Good job.
I mean, it's so clear that they're lines. Literally, she's remembering lines. That's why it's not believable.
Yep.
Despite it being sports entertainment, you still have to Yeah, it's like a magic show.
And not to be revisionist history, but we did have this argument on the show, guys, and I'm pretty sure at least 2 or 3 of us were on the side that she should have came in a heel for this reason because of the cutting the line that you guys were citing previously. It was going to enact this, and me, even though I'm admittedly ignorant on pro wrestling, I was a fan. I do know the appreciation, what makes it successful, the connections to mixed martial arts, and something else that, it sounds really douchey to even say, but, dabbling in acting and understanding that, then I completely second what Josh just said. And anybody who has that even remotely of a, not even educated ear, but just fucking palatable ear is just like, what is this garbage?
Do you guys think they pushed her too fast?
I thought they were booing her before the stutter.
Like,
whether she delivered the line or not.
The booing is what caused the stutter.
It grew.
Right. Okay, so it's not like we're attributing the booing because
they were already booing.
Yeah,
but that's what caused her to trip up because, like Dan mentioned, she's not used to that. Yeah. That's why I'm asking, did they push her too fast?
They probably had to. I don't think they would ever.
I don't think they pushed her. Sorry, Judge. I don't think they pushed her too fast. I just think they presented it wrong. You got to push her to the moon. She's coming in as this ex-UFC champ, even though she lost her last 2 fights. But I just think they presented her, again, as like a white meat, super likable when, she's done some things that some people aren't crazy about,
Yeah, if they made Bill Goldberg instead of like getting doused by fireworks before he'd go smash a guy, and they're like, let's take that firework time and make him talk to the audience some, like that would have ruined Bill Goldberg. And that whole run, man.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess back to Royal Rumble. I tip my hat. The WWE found themselves something there, and maybe they will headline WrestleMania. Maybe they've already decided that that's what they're going to do. Because I'm telling you, there was a big fall off from the Women's Royal Rumble to the wrestling match featuring Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. And I don't know if that happens every week or if they noticed it or what, but those ladies went out there and they took some hard hits, but they were acrobatic. They are acting out their parts as well. It was really, really cool to watch that.
The Men's Royal Rumble was good too, but I just felt like the women.
It got nostalgic with the guys because Matt Hardy came out and Kurt Angle came out, and so it's cool to see those surprises or whatever. But I'd say the female stole the show. What I will say is the wrestling crowd, man. There was 50,000 of us there, right? Was it only you, Benny, and I, Moraga and his boy? Are we the only ones that took a shower before going? I mean, there are some filthy bastards at this show.
I had an armpit that kept rubbing up on my shoulder.
Holy cow, man. I mean, there was people that did not. They went to the back of the closet and said, what's the dumbest outfit I can put on? I thought I was sitting around a bunch of Cactus Jacks at times.
Hey, guys, real quick. I know we got breaks and calls to squeeze in, but Brian Eggstrom is giving a special shout out to Gorgeous George and a shout to the Gozy, the drink. I don't know if maybe he gave you a shout somewhere in there too, but I just wanted to say that from the chat.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Brian. But I had a good time, and I 50,000. It was loud in there, and the WWE knocked it out of the park, and everybody when they left, they all looked like they had a blast. Oh, man, yeah. It's like a cult of community. But they love them some wrestling, and the WWE gives back to them. How can you not be in a good mood when even if you don't go, you can sit at home and watch the pay-per-view for $9.99? You know what I mean? Like, good for the WWE. They did that 5 years ago, I believe. They said, you know what? They're all going to be $9.99 from now on as part of the WWE network. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, who can beat that?
Yeah. All right, we got to take our last break.
Yep.
All right. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back.
Like a lot, especially Goes. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Hey.
Thank you for the platform that you got. Thank you for the platform you guys got here, like allowing everybody to be involved. As far as the Ronda Rousey thing, going heel and turning babyface, you're right. She should have gone heel and went babyface, and because she's not a very involved like actor. She's done films, but not in front of large crowds like that. And it wouldn't really like portray her in a good place either, you know, because she's a UFC fighter coming into the game, whereas Brock was a WWE wrestler going into MMA. You know, it's very tough for her to make that transition without having the background in, you know, stage performance. So you're 100% right about that. I also would like to ask an MMA question, if I could.
Yeah, of course.
How do you feel about the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, how he lost, and how he said that was like the worst feeling he had? Also considering Donald Cerrone when he fought Diaz and said that, you know, he completely got in his head and ruined his entire camp. Do you think that maybe the correlation of I'm sorry, I don't know the word there, but the correlation, and then springing them into, you know, a hierarchy of the greatest fighters of all time?
All right, thank you very much for the call.
I think that loss is what made him who he is today. I think it really did make him stronger for that reaction that you talked about, George.
Poirier.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
I think Cowboy, he can compartmentalize, and when he loses, it hurts. But for that fight, and that's it. I think Poirier, that one stung for a while. But you know what? He moved to 55, and he's become a beast.
Mm-hmm.
So good stuff, Joe. Really appreciate you calling in. Hopefully you call in more often. And we will try and take more calls as we kind of get used to this new feel of the day and how it rolls and all that. So be patient with us, Junkie Nation. We promise we will deliver like we always do. All right, we got to get on out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, special start time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. 2 hours. We'll knock it out of the park just like today. So for Josh and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.